Tell us a little bit more about what you guys do at your alcohol-free journey.
It's a great day to not be hungover. My name's Xiomara, and my husband and I, we run a business called Your Alcohol-Free Journey. We really try to work with the alcohol-free community and target some of the main insecurities and problems that people have when they quit drinking so that they have long-term success in their alcohol-free journey. So, for example, we try to put on programs and events where we help build people's confidence up. So, right now, I'm working on a couple events this summer. So, one of them is how to socialize with anyone. AF.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, when they quit drinking, they don't know how to socialize because of years of conditioning themselves to have a drink in their hand and have some liquid courage. So, we really try to bring people together in a safe space and kind of talk about those insecurities that they might have and just really find out that it's pretty normal to feel social anxiety.
Right.
And then as well have some exercises and tips that they can think about and practice in a safe space, how to socialize with people. So we talk about things like eye contact and avoiding fillers, and then there's some exercises around that, as well as like dancing. A lot of people don't feel confident dancing without alcohol, so we put on classes trying to help people feel more confident dancing. And then in general, just trying to help people on their alcohol-free journey. Building community is a huge one because a lot of people in their immediate vicinity don't have the network.
Yeah. It's very easy to find a pub down the road from you. To find an alcohol-free social is a little more tricky.
And they're getting more popular.
Right, you were saying before we came on, quite a big alcohol-free scene in London now.
I wouldn't say big, but there's definitely events that are happening. That's really exciting. I think part of the problem is they have these one-off events and there's not that continued kind of education and support. And a lot of times people need that. So it is nice to go to these events and network and meet new people who are in the alcohol-free space.
Yeah.
But as well as providing continued support for people.
And have you got do you want to tell sort of a story of one of your clients or like what a success story looks like or?
So I guess most people who I've worked with are still alcohol free. So I guess that's a success story. I've been doing this for about a year now. So long-term success, I would hope would be successful, where people continue with the alcohol-free lifestyle. But really, I just try to empower people and get rid of the shame and stigma around quitting.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who have misconceptions that you have to be an alcoholic living under the bridge, drinking a quart of vodka every day in order to quit. And so I'm really part of a bunch of people who are trying to change the narrative around that and say, let's rethink society's obsession with alcohol. And is this really good for us? And really anyone can quit drinking. It doesn't mean, that you have a quote unquote problem.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what got you into this line of work? What were you doing previously and how did this business come about?
Okay. So I was in the hospitality industry for a few years after COVID.
Sure.
Some just like life changes. And my husband and I were drinking because that's a huge part of the hospitality industry. It's very promoted after work. It's been really hectic and stressful. Here's a free drink, if not more. And so it was very common for us to just be drinking. I personally would consider myself a gray area drinker, which is somebody who sometimes had a problem, sometimes didn't.
Sure.
I could sometimes take it or leave it. Sometimes I couldn't. It really just depended on the environment or my mood. So so more of a gray area drinker than considered probably your traditional alcoholic or alcohol dependency disorder is what they're calling it now. So my husband and I, we went to Costa Rica, which we absolutely loved. We were there for 3 weeks and we had such a beautiful time, and we had set rules for our drinking, which I think is pretty common for people who are starting to have a problem with drinking. You put rules for yourself like, oh, I'm only going to drink on the weekends, or I'm going to avoid spirits, which was what our problem was that quote unquote, we thought that would solve the problem. And our last day in Costa Rica, we were very emotional that we were leaving because we really loved this place. And we started drinking mojitos, day drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had met some friends, so we were saying goodbye to them. And we went out clubbing. And, the last drink I ever remember having was an espresso martini. And we both blacked out that night. And we don't remember how we got home. Our Airbnb was like 2 miles away. We started fighting. We kind of only remember bits and pieces of it where we were yelling at each other, and it was just not what we were trying to embody.
Mm-hmm.
And we had received so many beautiful compliments from other people saying, "Oh, you guys are the dream couple.
Mm-hmm.
We look up to you." And we would hear this a lot, but it was like when we were drinking, that didn't align.
Right.
So it just got to a point where it was like, right, we can either break up and keep drinking and move on, or we can stay together and quit drinking, because alcohol really can't be a part of our relationship.
Yeah.
And we're both really passionate, fiery people. So it's just like sometimes that passion was just like maybe like an Italian kind of fighting couple, but it really wasn't healthy. And there was a lot of confusion too. I think one of the biggest problems was I would get triggered or he would get triggered. And because there was this cloud of alcohol, we couldn't quite figure out what it was. And we couldn't articulate that in the moment. And then the next day, we couldn't really remember what happened or why we were triggered. So there was really no learning from this process either.
So you could repeat the same argument.
Yeah, so we would repeat the same behaviors, and we couldn't learn from each other either. Like, oh, I didn't know you didn't like it when I said that, or whatever. So the communication was definitely clouded there. So since then we've gotten married, which I don't think we would have ever gotten married if we hadn't quit drinking together.
Yeah.
And we and then we started this business because when we went alcohol free, my husband went into AA. He needed kind of that support, and I was really looking for something outside of AA. I have nothing but respect for AA people because they are part of my community. It just wasn't the right program for me.
Right.
And I think that other people can also resonate with that.
Sure.
So I was really looking for something that was a little more empowering, because in AA, they teach you that you're powerless. And there's a lot of, I personally feel shame that goes with that. And so I really wanted to just not feel shameful about my decision. So I was really seeking programs or communities that were kind of not like that, and a different kind of perspective.
A bit more modern.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then you sort of came to that conclusion of building your own program.
So I joined a program kind of early, I would say about 6 months into it. And I just found it extremely useful. Euphoric AF.
Yeah.
She did a coaching program. It was more for women who had been already kind of alcohol free and a little more established in their alcohol free journey. Right. So 6 months into it, that was perfect for me.
Sure.
And it was just an online community of women that we met up with once a week for 3 months. And it was just really nice to have that support with just people who got it. At the time, I was living in a small town in Idaho and just a really big drinking culture. And while I still enjoyed hanging out with my friends, it was just really nice to go back and have people who just kind of got it.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of, if we follow that journey, then when did you start deciding to sort of start helping others?
Totally. So I saw this program and I thought, wow, there needs to be more of this.
Right.
So I decided then to get my coaching certificate. So I'm certified in 5 different modalities, mainly around mindset, success work, alcohol-free living, and then NLP practitioner, as well as hypnosis.
Sure.
So just like looking at different types of treatments, or not treatments, but looking at different types of ways to help people and really change their habits and mindsets around drinking. Yeah. And really learning the science behind alcohol, because I think that's really empowering to know. So NLP practitioner, neurolinguistics practitioner, it looks at neuroplasticity in the brain and really forming new habits.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about. And there's definitely a couple techniques and a couple ways to look at it. So with AA, for example, if you drink again, let's say you're 50 days into it, you drink again, you have to go back to zero.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that's really shaming. Whereas more the NLP approach to it, I would say, is, hey, you made it 50 days. Like, let's keep going.
Yeah.
And not be so hard on yourself, because you're forming new habits in your brain.
Yeah.
And these things take time.
Yeah.
You've been spending years and years building these habits. It is difficult. And some people are able to just do it cold turkey.
Yeah.
For myself, I did have, like, I quit on this day, but I had like a drink 3 weeks later, and then a drink a month later. And kind of the further I went away from it, the more I was like, I felt crappy. It didn't taste good.
Yeah.
And so it really kind of was like almost a really slow wean for me.
Right.
I wouldn't say really slow, but like I had probably 3 or 4 drinks after my day.
Okay.
And so, yeah, NLP is just looking at neuroplasticity in your brain. And then hypnosis, I think I'm also a yoga instructor.
Right.
So kind of just positive psychology.
Involved in yoga before AF, or?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So I was a fitness instructor for 7 years.
Sure.
Yoga is something that I've been practicing for many years. And then I think that just kind of positive psychology, kind of getting yourself in a really relaxed state, and just listening to just kind of positive affirmations can be really powerful.
Yeah. Okay. But so how does this relate to hypnosis? Is positive affirmations hypnosis? Is it just a spinning disc? Is it?
I think it definitely can help.
Right.
Yeah. If you're sitting there in a really relaxed state and just more open to hearing just positive messages, like, about yourself, because a lot of people have tons of negative thoughts in their head. So just kind of relaxing and being in that meditative state.
Sure.
Receiving positive words of affirmation and
Okay. So
kind of taking you.
So hypnosis is more about being in a relaxed space and hearing some words of affirmation or something you probably inherently believe in already and just need to be reminded of.
Totally. Yeah. So it's just like another approach to kind of change your mindset around it.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense. Let's talk about the sort of dual mandate of you've got a cause you believe in. But this is also your business. How do you balance the two of those?
Trying to push the narrative around stigma, around alcohol in particular, as well as this being my business is very intertwined. I feel just like they're both very driven by my passion for alcohol-free living and creating more alcohol-free spaces for people, and really trying to help people with their long-term sobriety goals.
Yeah. Okay.
And part of that is pushing back against society and trying to create more inclusion so that it is easier for people.
Okay. How so? Or inclusion in what sense?
Just making sure there are alcohol-free options for people. That's one. Trying to break the stigma around alcohol as well. That's another. And I think that's a huge part of my narrative as just my business in general.
So from maybe a commercial sense, can you walk us through like an alcohol-free event? Because I think if we look at a normal summer event in London, we understand it's gonna be sponsored by Pimm's or someone. We understand how money is made. Is there profitability in an alcohol-free event?
I think that right now it's definitely trending. It's very popular amongst Gen Z, which is really exciting. I think in London, people are really wanting that. So I do think that there is money to be made in the alcohol-free industry if you're trying to put on events for people. I think at the end of the day, I'm really trying to just form a community and have more empowering events for people.
If you go to an alcohol-free event in London, is it generally something you're paying for? Is it sort of just a meetup in the park? How does that work?
So right now, obviously, there is a cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the alcohol-free events are relatively inexpensive comparatively to other kind of, if you're going out to the club, I don't know which going to the club is. I do ecstatic dance, which is like another alcohol-free event that's around 15. I went to an alcohol-free poetry event last night that was around 10.
Okay.
Some of the events I do range from free to £15. Some of the more programs I do are a little more expensive than that, but in general, I think I try to keep it relatively affordable for people.
Do you think alcohol free is the right lifestyle? Is this across the board? Okay, let's start that question again. Do you think alcohol free is a lifestyle that everyone should adopt, or is this just certain people need it and certain people can work within an alcoholic lifestyle?
That's a great question. I think that okay. I think that people should never be forced to be alcohol free. I've had people ask me, do you think there should be a ban on alcohol? And I do not agree with that. I think people will find a way. If you look at prohibition,
Right.
I mean, my great great grandfather was a moonshiner during prohibition. When he got out of prison, there was a parade for him. So I think people will find a way.
Yeah.
If you look at the streets of London, I live close to Deptford. There's underground tunnels that went to the Thames, which were unknown. That smugglers where they could get in alcohol during prohibition. So I don't think banning it. I really think it has to be an internal change that you want to do.
Yeah.
So I never try to push my alcohol-free lifestyle on anyone. Obviously, I'm soapboxing. I'm very happy about being alcohol-free, but I've definitely come across people who they're fine with their drinking habit, and that's totally okay. I'm really just looking for people who are kind of what I was experiencing, where I really didn't want alcohol to be part of my life, but I was kind of just caught up in the cycle.
Sure.
Like, I can remember several times before I quit drinking where I just thought, wow, it'd be so cool if I didn't have to drink. And I would try to set goals for myself. I'm not going to drink this week. And inevitably, Friday night would come along or whatnot, and I would be drinking again. And so I'm really looking for people who are kind of in my situation where they have this internal struggle where they don't think it's quite lining up with their life and values and are curious about what being an alcohol-free lifestyle can do for them. As well as also working with people who are already alcohol-free and made that commitment and might be struggling.
Sure. Okay. Let's talk about Gen Z and alcohol, because you mentioned there's a lot of desire in the Gen Z community to be alcohol free. I think there's also a lot of desire. There's a lot more drug use in the Gen Z community. For example, in the UK this year, we saw the first time that there were more driving under the influence charges for banned substances than for alcohol. Um, how does this fit in? Is this something you're concerned about? Is this an opportunity? What does it look like for Gen Z?
Absolutely. So I didn't know about that statistic, but I do know when you say alcohol free, you're alcohol free. It doesn't mean you're drug free.
Sure.
And I think that sometimes when you go alcohol free and you're turning to drugs, you're still not addressing the root problems. Are you trying to escape from something? Are you bored with your life? Are you numbing some feelings? Are you not able to control not control your emotions, but are you not able to express yourself?
Sure.
So that's another program I'm working on right now, is how to deal with these emotions.
And that's very important given the COVID context and the period we've all come out of, which I think still impacts how people interact and socialize.
Absolutely. Yeah. So social anxiety, I definitely have friends who have gone alcohol free, or people that I've worked with because I'm a little more open about drug use. if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Because of just the community I come from. I come from California. I'm a Burning Man participant, so I definitely know people still smoke weed, or K is a big one right now. I'm sober myself, but I definitely am fine with people who make those choices for themselves. But sometimes there is something inside you that still isn't being addressed. So, for example, I went out with some girlfriends a couple weeks ago, and there was a female DJ that we had gone to see, and we get in there, and as soon as we get in, one of the girls was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And I'm dancing and feeling good, and she comes up to me, oh, you're like a really great dancer. And then she goes back to the bathroom, comes back, you can see it in her eyes that she's like doing drugs.
Yeah.
And I just think that sometimes a lot of people feel uncomfortable with themselves, and you just sometimes have to be okay with that.
Right.
And
okay with them being uncomfortable, or okay with their drug use?
I think just be okay with being uncomfortable. Like, it's very vulnerable to go on a dance floor and just dance.
Yeah.
Or to meet new people. It can feel raw, and you just kind of have to get used to it does feel uncomfortable. So I don't know if that might be a reason why they're wanting to go do drugs, is because they feel like, oh, I can't dance without drugs, or, oh, I can't talk to people without drugs, or, oh, I'm in this setting. I can't be in this setting without feeling somewhat messed up, or
Exactly.
taking the edge off.
Chat to us about your business before your masters and after your masters.
So I started my business before my master's, and I think people who did the enterprise challenge, which I did, I think they had just started an idea. So I think I did have kind of a leg up, because this is something I've been working on. And I actually went to school to study my master's to help my business. And
is that something you'd recommend?
Would I recommend that? I don't know. I think you can still be an entrepreneur. I think just learning and education in general is great. So I would never shy away from that. It was definitely something new for me. I studied art and art history in my undergrad. So the business world, I definitely felt like I needed some help.
So for context, your master's was in
strategic marketing.
Yeah. Okay, so more commercial.
More commercial, definitely. I think I just wanted to learn more about business and didn't really know where to start. I'm a very creative person, so that kind of worked in with that.
I think I'll relatively happily go on record and say I think a lot of people take education too far. I think there's a lot of people in their 20s looking to restudy or add a career or add a qualification, where just go out, start a business, and do whatever you're going to do, and you will learn from it. I think
absolutely.
People often use education as a crutch to just not get out there and do it, thinking, well, one day I'll know everything and then I'll do it.
That's so true. I think my approach was a little bit of both. I'm still working on my business. I'm still trying to figure it out. I've definitely made mistakes. I've definitely learned from experiences just by doing. And I think also school, I don't know. I almost thought that school would be a little bit more practical and hands-on instead of more theoretical, I guess. That was probably my mistake.
Do you want to talk about the mistakes you've made in your business? Because you mentioned you've made mistakes. Sort of an example and how you corrected it.
So I think that the entrepreneurial journey in general is like a roller coaster. Some days you're feeling not motivated at all. Some days you're feeling really good and pumped up. So I definitely think, from my experience and other entrepreneurs I've talked to, it can be like highs and lows, right? That's very normal. And I don't think it's something that's talked about enough. Some mistakes that I've made. I mean, in the beginning, I've definitely made some marketing mistakes. I would call them, I guess, marketing mistakes. I put on events for the Burning Man community and was trying to continue that, and kind of got some backlash from that. Well, I was trying to put on a program where, the Burning Man community who are alcohol-free would come together, and I was offering a price on that, which I thought was very low. And they were very upset at me because, well, AA is free. So a lot of people have that mentality. Well, you shouldn't have to pay for your alcohol-free, because AA is a free program. So a lot of people get that on their head. Well, you're charging for sobriety, which I don't necessarily agree with. I've definitely paid for sobriety programs and sobriety events, so I'm happy to pay for that.
That's a very interesting point because, I mean, you would think that people would be very comfortable paying for something that's so important to their health. You're willing to pay to see a doctor. You're willing to pay for vitamins or medicine, or how would getting sober not be something you're willing to pay for? But then on the other hand, how do you convince people that this is something worth paying for?
I think you just don't. Those just aren't going to be your people,
Right.
I think that like I said, love AA people, but I think that they have it in their head that I don't have to pay for something like this. So it's just a little bit different. And also with AA, I think they're not quite doing things the way that I'm doing things.
Yeah, I'm not sure you don't pay for AA. You pay for AA. It's a marketing scheme. I mean, they've got certain religious views that they are looking to push, and that's why they provide it for free. And in return for this help, they do push their religious narrative to an extent. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with the narrative, but in a sense, you are paying for it. You're just paying through a sense of marketing. It's no different to you don't pay for a YouTube video, but you watch the adverts.
Totally. I think they have a basket there. You can put money in it or you don't have to. And that's the mindset. Like, oh, I can put $1 in today or I cannot.
Right.
So, yeah. And let's see. I also put on an alcohol-free pub crawl.
Oh, yeah?
Well. And definitely that was trial by fire. I had 6 different bars.
Sure.
And it was a half an hour at each place.
And are these alcohol-free bars, or are they just...
These were bars that were supportive of the alcohol-free community and had options for people.
Sure.
So, we went to a different place every half an hour. And, after 3 or 4 places, people were just like, I can't chug another mocktail because it's not the same if you're not drinking.
Yeah.
I think I needed to have just less bars. So I'm going to do it again at the end of August. And I'm going to have less kind of places involved, a little longer time there, and a little more mental stimulation like people kind of want. I think for me, the idea kind of came from the novelty of it.
Right.
We've been alcohol free for almost 2 years at that point, and we don't get to go do that stuff anymore. So I thought it would be fun. I had probably about 60 or 70 participants, and then towards the end, that had wildly dropped off because people were just
the format didn't necessarily.
And so I'm going to have prizes at the end now. I'm going to have just a little more time in each place and a little more mental stimulation.
Yeah. Talk to me about the alcohol-free dance scene, because I'll be honest, I've been invited by a friend of mine who's alcohol-free to an alcohol-free dance event. And I just said, there's absolutely no way I'm going. There's just no way. So what is that like?
Was it ecstatic dance?
I don't know.
Okay. What is that like? Well, when I was drinking, I was invited to Ecstatic Dance, which is a alcohol, drug-free space, and also no talking.
Wild. Okay.
And they really promote abstract dancing. So you're not supposed to be doing, line dancing or something like that.
Is it in a park?
It can be in a park. It can be... There's ecstatic dance events all over London.
Right. I think there's one. Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to an ecstatic dance in California when I was still drinking. And I remember hearing what it was about. I was like, this is really freaking far out. And I'm from the Bay Area. Like, we're used to far out things. So I went and I didn't enjoy myself because I was like, this is weird, But I wasn't ready for it. So when I quit drinking, I was specifically seeking out alcohol, drug-free spaces. So my husband and I went together and we just had so much fun. I mean, my husband would not consider himself a dancer, and even he was just like expressing himself in different ways, and it's very cathartic. And yeah, and I mean, at the end, you get to talk to people, which is wonderful, but I think it's just more like an inward experience, and it does build my confidence as far as dancing goes, because I can just go and be myself and feel the music in a really safe space where there's really not supposed to be any observers. We're all participants.
Sure.
So if you want to take a break, you're usually asked to like leave the room, or you're asked to like sit down and not be staring at people. So it's a really participatory thing where we're all just kind of more like an inward expressing ourselves through movement.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is just, it's a completely different world from a club. It's, so much of I think the ego and everything has just been taken out of that, and I think it's a lot more playful.
It's very playful. It's very playful. And another big thing they promote is consent as well. So if you want to dance with somebody else, obviously there's no talking, so you can kind of dance with them. And if they're done, they kind of make some sort of gesture to let you know that, hey, I'm going to move on.
Right.
And if they don't want to dance with you at all, then they kind of just, again, make some sort of gesture. So it's usually either like a, or like a, like just a little kind of friendly gesture to be like, I don't feel like dancing with anyone else right now. And there are some beautiful like couples who end up dancing together, and obviously you're not supposed to stare, but you kind of every once in a while look around the room, and it's very inspirational, I think, especially in London, because there are some what you feel professional contemporary dancers, and just to watch them move, and you're like, yeah, I want to try that, and so you get inspired by other people's movement.
That's very cool. Yeah, I think just for the dancing, you might bring a few people in. So, what are some key processes or daily routines that you would recommend to an entrepreneur, someone starting their own business, to sort of maintain that focus every day?
So, I think it's really important to do something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I think if you're not passionate about it, it's really hard to stay motivated, or that like long-term motivation behind it. So do something you're passionate about. I think personal development is also huge. I know that's not something that you can do every day, but being an entrepreneur is a difficult journey. It's not easy. You don't have somebody paying you, you don't have somebody telling you what to do. So really just kind of some personal development on how to keep a strong mindset, on how to keep yourself organized, or, learning from other people, learning from other entrepreneurs. And for me, I really like to set up my week almost kind of like, okay, on Tuesday, I do my newsletter, on Wednesday, I'm doing this. So just kind of having a more schedule for yourself. I think entrepreneurs, it is hard to switch off. It's almost like every single day you're always thinking about your business. So
someone with either an entrepreneur or a stressful career, how do you switch off at the end of the day if you've always used alcohol for that and that tool has been taken away from you?
Giving yourself permission to relax, giving yourself permission to say, I'm not going to check my emails anymore.
But how do you physically give yourself permission?
You just say, I'm not going to do it. Like, for example, a lot of people feel, oh, I've had my glass of red wine, so I'm not going to check my email. So just maybe make a new ritual around something. So have a glass of just something that excites you, like they have non-alcoholic wine or non-alcoholic beer. Have something like that.
And that's the simple.
And just mentally just be like, I'm done for the day. I'm going to enjoy my day. It's a little more of a conscious decision that I'm going to switch off now, or do something else that you find really relaxing. Like, I'm going to go to the gym and let some of this off. I'm going to call a friend. So just kind of picking something else that is going to let off that steam for you. Just finding things that are enjoyable for you and that release stress, like going to the gym or calling a friend or spending time with your dog or spending time with your partner. So just some things that are naturally going to make you feel good, doing some journaling, and I think this is unique to everybody. Like some people enjoy going to a baseball game, some people don't. So,
Sure.
it's up to you what you actually find enjoyable and not what alcohol is making fun for you.
A lot of your brand is your relationship with your husband. How do you and Patrick keep your life together, sort of separate from marketing, from what's going on Instagram and everything else?
I think we really try to be honest
Hmm.
with people about what we're going through. So sometimes we share about what we've been fighting about, just so that people don't think that we're like this perfect couple. I think that sometimes my husband has trouble being on social media. Like he doesn't really like posting or being on social media. So I think sometimes I end up doing more of that. But I think we're both really passionate about alcohol-free living and we really support each other. And I think he's got a great perspective just being of the male perspective. He was a military veteran as well, somebody who was more into AA than I. So we both bring some interesting perspective of the alcohol-free community together.
How, for someone like for Patrick, how does he explain to his sort of old military buddies that he doesn't drink beer anymore? And what's their reaction to that?
I think for the most part, people are very supportive. And if they're not supportive, that's a huge red flag.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be a couple of jokes that get
In the
thrown.
beginning, he definitely told people he didn't drink and people were still offering him shots. I think, especially in the Midwest where he was stationed and based for a long time, there's just a huge drinking culture. And you hear it all the time from people, I'm never drinking again.
Yeah.
And then next week they're right back at it. So I think definitely in the beginning, people had a little bit more of a harder time with it. But for me, the people who are supportive, that's a huge green flag.
Right.
And usually the people who have been supportive have been really inspired by our lifestyle and have also either cut back or quit entirely. So it's very contagious, alcohol-free living, I think.
If you want to just tell us a story of how you went from someone who's very passionate about the alcohol-free lifestyle to someone who could run a business in this space and how that journey went.
So, like I said, I really saw that there was a need for more alcohol-free spaces for people. And I am a very outgoing person and I just didn't know a ton about business. And I was like, why not me? So, really, I've been formulating my business and getting certified and kind of learning more about the alcohol-free industry. So, there's a lot of looking back at what is actually on the market right now for people and trying to figure out where I fit. Because a lot of it too is trying to find your niche and not trying to be like everyone else. So there are a lot of alcohol-free life coaches, which is what I am, but really trying to create something unique and something that I really think addresses the core problem, which is why people drink, is a lot of times it's just like insecurity or not feeling confident in themselves. So really just trying to put on empowering events for people is kind of where I've found my niche.
Okay,
So
which is actually very interesting because I think we're all okay with the idea of a life coach. We all understand it. We all understand the idea of an event, but sort of bringing mental health and events together is something that no one's really. I've never thought of that before.
sure. Yeah, so definitely I think there's a huge piece in actually meeting people in person. There's a lot you can learn from that. Obviously, you can do things online, which is great. But I do think actually meeting people in person who are alcohol free and kind of practicing these skills when you're out in the real world is really powerful because it's really hard to say, let's learn how to socialize over a Zoom meeting,
Exactly.
right? Because there's a lot of subtleties and, you're not in the comfort of your own home. You're out, maybe in a new space. So that's really how my idea was forming because I really don't think that there's that continued support for people. So I started my business October of last year, really officially. I got my website up, I was investing more money into it, and then went to school to try to help that. And then I joined a entrepreneurial challenge at the University of Greenwich where I was going to school. Yeah. And there were quite a few people who were going through this program. I think there was about 150, 160.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I was just kind of there to learn. I really didn't think I was going to win.
Yeah.
And I remember we had to submit our business plan, and I almost didn't turn mine in because, like I explained before, the entrepreneurial journey is a roller coaster.
Right.
So at that particular moment, I was feeling really disheartened. And, I was like, just, sometimes I'm going to be honest, sometimes it feels like, why, what I know why I'm doing this, but sometimes you can just feel a real lack of motivation.
Of course.
So at that time when I was submitting my business plan, I really had worked on it, and it really was like a last minute submission because I was just so down on myself. I'm like, I'm not going to win this anyways. And thank God I did, because I ended up winning the competition, which I just did not think I was going to win.
Yeah.
And
It got you a lot of coverage, sort of LinkedIn, online through University of Greenwich's web presence. And that must have done quite a lot for you.
Yeah, I think it was very inspiring and motivational. I think when something like that happens, it's a little hard to be sad.
Yeah.
Like, oh, some people actually think that this has value.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just nice to feel encouraged in general. And then I got kind of a lump of money to help with my business too. So that's also really helpful as well, because being a student, it was difficult to just be, especially with the cost of living in London, it's difficult to put money into your business when you're not really that moment really getting back what you're throwing into
having
it.
a cash injection like that.
Yeah.
I see it with a lot of our clients is Innovate UK is fantastic with bringing money into companies just when they need it. But yeah, something like that can really change the fortunes of your company.
And also with this program, we were paired with a mentor, a business mentor. So I think having a business mentor also is really helpful. And there's a lot of free options for business mentors. Do you have a business mentor? Have you heard of anything like this?
I do have a mentor I speak to quite often.
Yeah. So they're super helpful. I know I personally, my mentor was through Peabody, which is a great program that helps small businesses. And every month they have monthly events in London that kind of cater to social impact or kind of the entrepreneurial journey as well.
That's really cool. What kind of people do you meet at these events?
I mean, it's just like a networking event. So I've definitely met other entrepreneurs. I've met other social entrepreneurs at these events. There's always some speakers that are really motivational.
Do you want to chat to us about your business model? How is it you approach lifestyle coaching and alcohol-free living, and how is that different to the space?
So there are a lot of online coaches who usually work one-to-one. Sometimes there's group coaching programs.
Sure.
And then there's a lot of one-off events. So people are having just an alcohol-free night, so some sort of event. And I really did want to bring both of those together because I think meeting people in person is really powerful. And then also practicing the skills that you're learning is also really powerful. Meeting people in person is just a lot different than meeting people online.
Of course. Yeah.
So my idea was really just creating more empowering events for the alcohol-free community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you say it, it makes so much sense in that I think there's a lot of lifestyle coaching that goes on, but how can you can't coach someone's lifestyle sitting on a couch. You actually have to go out and they need to live their life, and you need to give them sort of a space to train.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a fantastic approach to it. I think it's very novel.
Yeah, having just a safe space for people, so everybody who's there is either sober curious or has been alcohol free for a while and are just trying to address these different issues, and just practicing with other people who get it. So having discussions around it, and then also kind of practicing these skills, because I think the root of a lot of why people drink is insecurities.
You've explained that how you bring sort of events and coaching together. How do you get that message across to people? Sort of explain that this is our model, this is what we do. How do you market that?
So I just kind of talk exactly how I'm talking to you about what I offer people. And usually people are really excited. They've never heard of anything like this before, which is great because that means that I'm doing something that's a little more unique. I definitely think that these programs have benefits. And so that's really exciting.
Do you find the events market the coaching, or the coaching markets the events? Is there a feedback loop to that?
I think people who come and enjoy themselves, as most people do, I haven't really had anyone who wasn't excited. They tend to want to keep in touch and then come back. You know, it's the classic when you have a business, it's harder to get new customers. You want to keep the people that you have happy.
Of course.
So when building what I would perceive more of a community, because I'm really trying to build a community of empowered alcohol-free people, you know, you want to keep those people.
Right, of course. Yeah. And I think client retention is incredibly important when it's so important to their health and lifestyle and their alcohol-free journey. So let's talk about, so you got to this point in your journey where you had a business, it's functioning, but you thought you could sort of propel it a little bit more through some education. Do you want to elaborate on that?
So, like I said, I studied art and art history in my background and then was in hospitality for a few years. So I guess I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, but didn't really know a ton about business. So I really thought going back to school could help with that. And I definitely learned some new things. And I went to the University of Greenwich and they have a really great program called the Generator. And that program really does help entrepreneurs. So in some ways, I did feel like the University of Greenwich did align with that because they do have this resource that really does target, you know, commercial entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs.
And that made a huge difference. And they run the Enterprise Challenge.
Yes, they do. Yes.
And do you want to tell us a little bit about how that went?
So the Enterprise Challenge started earlier this year, and it's a 6 weeks program. So once a week you meet up with them, and there's a really great business mentor. His name is Junior. I don't know his last name. He's really wonderful. But he went in and taught us different skills that entrepreneurs need to know. So one of them being AI. Like, I think that's really empowering because most universities don't want to talk about AI because, you know, obviously students are using AI to cheat, but it is everywhere now.
Of course,
you know, people are using it on LinkedIn posts, social media posts. And the thing about AI too is within a year or two, if not 3 years, it's going to be on every single platform. Like, you know, and really what they were trying to tell is that entrepreneurs need to know how to use AI now. Like, you know, start learning, start navigating it now. So I think my approach is I do really want to keep as real as I possibly can and keep my own voice. So sometimes it's more using AI for certain things, but when I'm on social media, I really try to use my own voice for that.
I think there's a lot of soul that's lost when it's being driven by AI.
And you can tell.
You really can tell.
Yeah. So it's like when professors are, you know, they say don't use AI, but it's almost so blatantly obvious when students are using it. So I think it can be definitely used as a business tool. So that was one thing that was taught during the Enterprise Challenge was we had talks about AI and how it's just really important to learn about, especially as an entrepreneur, and then still wanting to just for my own sake when I'm marketing or you know on social media, I still want to keep that my own voice.
So how would you use it in your business?
So you can use it for creative, kind of like looking for titles to something or topics to something, or, you know, you can kind of run different ideas and, you know, to list what's already on the market. You know, definitely it can write resumes for you, you know, if you need help with any sort of stuff like that, it's going to pump them out. And what's crazy is I feel that places hiring people are using AI to filter through the resumes as well. So it's like,
yeah.
So it's kind of like you almost feel obligated to use that when you're kind of doing those pieces. Or there's definitely my husband. He also has a tiling business, and there was definitely some things where I was, asking about different little blurbs that we could put in the website that would sound good.
Yeah.
So, kind of getting creative ideas through that sense.
So you mentioned your husband's got got a tiling business as well. How involved is he in your business?
So we definitely do events together. So he helps me with that. And I think mainly I probably do about 70% of the business. There's definitely some things that I need his help with that he helps with, that he's happy to do. He definitely kind of helps more with making sure things go smoothly, as well as just being, I think his voice as a male perspective, like I shared before, is super impactful, because I think a lot of feminine leaning people are more interested in alcohol-free lifestyle, if that makes sense. I think for men, it's a little bit harder because it's seen as a very masculine thing to do, to drink, and not to question that. So to have somebody who is masculine decide not to drink, I think is really powerful.
So from an entrepreneur perspective, do you find the way people treat your husband as an entrepreneur is different to the way you're treated as an entrepreneur? And how's that sort of impacted your journey? Or has it?
I think being a woman in general, a lot of people tend to undermine your ability.
Yeah.
So I think just as a woman in general, I'm not sure I've really experienced it with this business openly, but definitely in other spaces I've been. I do some MC work too in the past. So I've been on the stage, and people just don't assume I'm in charge and running the show. It's particularly older white men. I don't want to throw out stereotypes, but so I, there's just like micro little things as a woman that you experience daily. I really can't say that I've really experienced it in my own business, but I do think that the majority of people who come to these events, I have had both sexes there.
Yeah.
I think that most people who are interested in these events are more feminine leaning, whether that be, somebody in the queer community or somebody who is female. Not to say that I'm against having a man there at all. And that's kind of, I think, where my husband is the part of it too. So that we really try to make it an inclusive space for everyone. Yeah. So that they feel comfortable, that it's just not a female only event.
Tell us about the overseer you have.
Sure. Yeah. So I have been coming to Broccoli since I was a kid, and my grandpa has an art studio in his backyard. And I've been participating with Broccoli Open Studios since probably 2017. And my husband and I, we're both artists, and we are going to be doing Broccoli Open Studios the beginning of July.
Yeah.
And most of the work that we've recently done has been while we were sober. So I specifically remember, before I even quit drinking, that I would definitely make artwork with like a glass of wine, and that was totally normal. And really, studying art history, it is just preached to us that a lot of the quote unquote greats were drunks.
Right.
Jackson Pollock, Van Gogh, some of the big ones that come to mind, but it's very common in the artist community to have drugs and alcohol involved.
And I mean, I think there's probably more of a movement around maybe a bit more wholesome artists, kind of favorite artist of mine. I don't know if you know Kellogg's Lives, does like a lot of watercolors. An Australian artist. And I mean, I don't know he's alcohol free, but I know a lot of his brand is very sort of good living and looking after yourself. And I think that space, there's a bit of a renaissance in it, maybe.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes with artists, part of the artwork is them themselves. So if you resonate with them as a person, you're more inclined to buy their artwork, if that makes sense, and vice versa.
Oh, definitely.
It's definitely, it's like part of the brand. It's like marketing these days.
Yeah. Do you see art as part of your business?
I see art as part of my life. I think I'm just a very passionate person. I have ADHD, so it's really hard for me to stay focused on one thing at a time.
Yeah, I think chatting to you, what's really cool about what you're doing is you've got sort of a lifestyle where you're making a little bit of your money from life coaching, a little bit from events. Sure, you make a little bit from emceeing and maybe a bit from the art and just all around. And what that means is you don't have a business, you have a lifestyle.
Sure.
It's almost very traditional, almost hunter-gatherer-esque of sort of you find ways to cover your day-to-day expenses, and the rest is about living life. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, let's put it this way. Someone asked me last night, do you live to work or work to live? How would you see your lifestyle? Is it that you live for the work you do, or is the work something you do to allow you to live a lifestyle?
I think I've definitely worked to live, and I'm really trying to build a life for myself where I am passionate about what I do.
Yeah.
And I think being an entrepreneur, you're able to kind of pave that road for yourself if there's not an obvious path
Yeah.
ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that it's not hard work or you're not doing the same amount of hours,
Yeah.
but there's definitely more flexibility in some regards.
What are your goals as an entrepreneur? Like, what would success look like for you?
Success would be creating a community of people that I enjoy being around. I love empowering people. Like I said, I was a fitness instructor for 7 years. So one of the biggest aspects of my job that I loved was pumping people up and making people feel really good about themselves. So yeah, and just inspiring more people to go alcohol free and able to make a living on that, you know?
That's the interesting thing is you never mentioned money right up until the last sort of moment, like and make a living.
Totally.
It's not about making millions or and that's what I love is I chat to a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people outside the space think it's all about making millions. And a lot of people in the space go, no, I just want to live a certain lifestyle. And for a lot of people that's um I want to be able to uh, go in and do something I love every day and help people.
Totally.
Or that's I want to be able to spend more time at home with my children.
Right.
Or that's I want to be able to travel and work remotely. And it's being able to build the lifestyle you want. And I think you're doing a very good job of creating the life that you want.
Yeah, I think as a social entrepreneur, typically the focus is more about the impact. I could be wrong. I mean, obviously, as an entrepreneur, you still need to make some money to, not only cover the money that you're putting into it, but able to make it so it's a sustainable long term. But it's ultimately about that impact that you're making on society.
Talk to me about being a social entrepreneur versus a charity. Why would you rather start a small business? You're not looking to make millions, and change society that way rather than creating an out and out charity.
I've never really thought about creating a charity. I don't really think a charity is what I'm necessarily looking for. Like I said, I want to be able to support myself and support things that I want to do and still empower people.
The enterprise challenge which you won, you ended up meeting a mentor. Do you want to talk about the impact they had on your business?
Yeah, so Christou, he was my mentor through the business challenge. He works for Peabody and just had a lot of resources and insights through Peabody. So Peabody is a business that runs here in London and also works with entrepreneurs.
Sure.
So some of the most impactful things were just some of the in-person events that they run.
Right.
And then Junior Agungidi.
Yeah.
I hope I said his name right. He was the guy who ran the Enterprise Challenge through the generator. And after winning, he offered mentorship
Sure.
So I've been working with him and he's really helpful. It's just really great to have a different perspective on your business and outside perspective, and somebody who's worked with entrepreneurs or, who has been an entrepreneur themselves, so that they can just offer you different insights, like looking through your website and being like, I don't think that this is the right message that you're sending.
And often they can tell you things that you knew were perfectly that you knew that someone just had to tell you.
Yeah.
For example, my mentor when I was starting out mercantile accounting was also trying to work on an estate agency, and they just pulled me aside and said, like, look, you can't run two businesses at once. You need to get one off the ground and leave the other. And that was a huge piece of advice that I knew, but someone had to tell me.
Totally.
Run us through some of the advice that Junior's given you.
So he he gets paid for public speaking. And one of my events that I wanted to do was how to socialize alcohol free.
Sure.
So there was actually a lot of things I learned from him about public speaking, as well as some advice on different events to go to. And when you're socializing with someone, it's not necessarily talking in front of a crowd. There's a lot of crossovers. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of get some different exercises and things to think about. And a lot of those have come directly from public speaking.
Yeah. Oh, of course, that makes so much sense because I mean, socializing and that fear of being sober and talking to someone, or versus that fear of being on stage and talking to someone is exactly. I can see the overlap there. You won the Enterprise Challenge at Greenwich University, and that came with a significant cash injection to your business. Do you want to talk about sort of how your business was running before that and the difference that made?
Before, I was really kind of getting panicky about how I'm going to be able to afford these things. I know as an entrepreneur, a lot of people are like, oh, you're putting money into this, but like everything costs money. A website costs money. Having Zoom meetings costs money. Having an email costs money these days. So there's just a lot of little expenses that, I was getting some income in, but it was, not able to cover this. So to just be able to have somebody come in, and now I have money for marketing. Now I have money for events, booking event spaces. So it just kind of adds to your confidence a little bit and makes you feel a little less worried. And I feel very thankful because not a lot of entrepreneurs get recognized as Entrepreneur of the Year. A lot of entrepreneurs either succeed or they quietly fail without getting an award and without getting sort of some money to kind of help them.
Yeah. So it's it's the money that helps cover day-to-day costs, but it's also the sort of comfort in yourself, knowing that you've pulled this off with you, that other people back you, as well as, like we spoke about, the mentorship and everything that came along. So everyone always says not to start a company with your friends. You've technically followed this rule because you started a company with your husband. How do you balance working together and being life partners?
So my husband is my best friend, and in some ways, so I didn't follow the rules. But I think there's a lot of advantages with starting something with your best friend because you know each other very well.
Yeah.
You know your strengths and weaknesses, and you can talk openly and honestly with them. And there's a huge trust piece that you're going to need with a business partner.
Yeah, well, that's always been my argument. Is well, who else am I supposed to trust?
Yeah.
But yeah,
and I know there can be totally fallouts. You definitely hear about that, and that's terrible, but it can happen with somebody you don't know either. And I definitely know of some businesses where they have started with friends, or I can't think of any. Oh, I know some husband and wives who work together. So in some ways it's nice because you can spend time with each other. Yeah. There's got to be some stress. Has it caused any arguments for you ever? Absolutely. Yeah. And I think on social media, we try to be honest about the fights that we've had. So, like I said, my husband doesn't really like to be on social media. Right. So a lot of times I'm like, let's talk about this. And then doesn't want to talk about that, or he gets upset that we don't have a script. And I'm like, we don't need a script for social media. Just just talk, you know? So there's definitely some tension around that. So for the most part, I try to be on social media and get him to share when he wants to share.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I get the sense that works better with his personality. Mm-hmm. You're the more outgoing.
Well, he's very outgoing too. It's just in a different way. Right. He's very good with people in person. Very, very good. His nickname is Chatty Patty. Talk your ear off. We went to an event last night, and the event kind of started late, and the event organizer was like, everybody blame Chatty Patty, because I was talking to him, and it's really good. He's really good with people. He loves to tell stories. He loves to know about other people, so he's very gregarious in that sense as well. It's just being on social media, like like you said, it's not everybody's.
It's not everyone's cup of tea. Did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
If there's anything you want to talk about being an entrepreneur, I think it's really important to talk about the just ups and downs of entrepreneurship. I mean, have you experienced anything like that? Like,
definitely.
It's like sometimes it can just feel like you're like, yes, I got this, and then sometimes it's just like, wow, that marketing campaign failed, or or I pissed somebody off, or and you're just like
lying awake at night going, I have no idea. How do I market? I might know how to do what I do for a living, but how do I market it? How do I find clients?
Totally.
What if? I mean, I've lain awake at night going, what if people don't need an accountant? And the world needs and no one wants an accountant. Whoever needs an accountant.
Share to people, because I think, and the entrepreneurial journey is really, we need to talk about
about the fact that there are highs and lows.
It's not a safe route.
No. And I think there's very much a bias in the media. Everyone loves to show the sort of I'm Forbes top 30 under 30. I sold my company for 8 figures at 28, blah blah blah. And I think that's not necessarily the healthiest image to portray.
They glorify the ones who, the less than 1% who have had extreme successes. That's what they glorify, but there are a ton of people who are succeeding in their own right, or they're quietly failing. I mean, entrepreneurs do fail. It's not a safe journey.
Yeah, of course.
So I think talking about that is super huge. Like, even if you sharing what you shared is really important too, I think, for entrepreneurs to know, just so that they're not alone, that it's not all, hey, everything's good. We're making so much money, and just talking about how difficult it can be.
And this was the thing that to sort of explain to friends, is sort of they sort of go, oh, so you're doing okay now, it's quite successful. Oh, you make this money? Like, no, I'm making less money than if I was just an accountant working for a big accounting company. But I'm having way more fun. And I think that's the same for a lot of entrepreneurs. Is if it's about the money, it will never be successful. Okay, so just explain to us, what social media platforms are you on, and what's your general social media strategy? Because that's a large part of your marketing.
Yes, so I'm on Instagram as the AF Couple, and then on TikTok at Your Alcohol Free Journey. And I also have a Facebook group for people who are in the alcohol-free Burning Man space.
Right.
And we have quite a few members in that group.
Yeah. And where you find you're getting the most traction, or where's easiest to succeed on social media?
I think they both have their, like Instagram, I feel sometimes is really good for creating long-term connections.
Yeah.
And then sometimes TikTok is more just like instant gratification. Like, you got like a ton of likes and a ton of views, but it's not convert. It's not that like built in.
Yeah.
And Instagram too has a spot where you can put your website, you can talk about your business.
Yeah.
If you have.
Yeah. Well, a big issue I have with LinkedIn, I mean, with Instagram for social, for marketing, is I can't link a blog post on my website. You can't link anything. It can go in your bio, but you can't link to in a post to outside of LinkedIn. I think that's a huge inhibiting factor for marketing. Is that something you found, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. So they both have their ups and downs, and I feel TikTok is more towards Gen Z, and then Instagram is kind of more like millennials, and then same with Facebook. Facebook's kind of more like millennials slash older generations.
Right.
So, if you're trying to get like a diverse range of people, I almost feel like you have to do. Yeah. And then again, with LinkedIn, it's more serious business stuff.
Yeah,
so.
I was gonna say you don't have much marketing on LinkedIn like a cool accounting kids. Yeah.
I just started my LinkedIn recently, actually.
Right. Yeah.
So I think.
Are you going to be posting more on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to definitely share some of my events because I think.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you use Eventbrite at all?
I am going to be using Eventbrite this summer. Yes.
I think it's a great way to drive people to an event because it makes your event so accessible and findable.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What is your approach on LinkedIn? Or was going to be your approach?
LinkedIn. I think I'm still trying to figure it out because I'm not really sure if that's a marketing space. I see some people marketing. I don't see anything people marketing. Sometimes it's more just about professional accomplishments or. Sure.
No, I find LinkedIn has been the most successful for my business. I mean, my business is a little bit different.
It'd be a little hard on Instagram to be like, I do accounting.
Yeah. I mean, I've started chatting with the marketing team a lot, and we've got a sort of an approach of who the fuck cares, and that's basically why we're not on Instagram anyway. Is no one cares about your accountant on LinkedIn. I mean, on Instagram. So yeah, that's sort of. But we are on TikTok. So but that's just more fun.
Well, and having your podcast too. That's a different. That's a different element.
Yeah. Exactly.
Entrepreneurial journeys.
Yeah, and that's why we try to come at it from a different angle. But yeah, I love marketing. I think marketing is the most interesting part of the whole mission. Have you got sort of mailing lists? Do you do any email marketing or?
Yes, so I have a weekly newsletter.
Yeah.
And I send out, and then usually if there's any events coming up, I usually share those. So I have about 50 right now, and definitely trying to learn how to build that.
Okay. Kind of want to chat about so you're obviously got these events, and you're going to start marketing them through Eventbrite. Do you think this is going to be a good way to maybe grow your mailing list? You can obviously get a lot of people can sign up through your mailing list on Eventbrite at the same time as joining your event. Is that some of the thinking?
Yes, totally. Well, and also, there's a lot of strategies they have, like have a freebie and, drive people's. You haven't heard about this?
Yeah.
You have like a freebie, you have some sort of guide or something that you can offer for free. Yeah. And with that, you put in your email and then with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's like a classic marketing technique to try to get emails. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. We are doing something quite similar. We've got to set up files for. Oh, are you looking to start a company? Here's a whole guide. Feel free.
Are you linked up with any of the other big businesses who also work with entrepreneurs, like Peabody or?
No. I've said for a while I should try and build those networks. But it's just on the back burner. There's always like just something else like, oh, you need to get this done.
Totally.
At some point I need to get in with like a startup incubator.
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome. I just want to say to all the entrepreneurs, keep going. And I know it's difficult, but just keep your head up and, just don't give up.
Yeah, I think it's been fantastic having you on and seeing how you can be pushing such a good cause and doing something where you can support the lifestyle you want to live. That's an amazing business to see, and very excited to be involved in that.
Thank you. And as always, it's a great day to not be hungover.